West Virginia has some doubters this season, but there are also some that love the Mountaineers. And I've got a special guest that I'm going to bring on the show today. We're going to try to convince him to love the Mountaineers just a little bit more.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up, guys? Welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host here, and welcome back in to Locked On West Virginia. Guys, we got a lot to talk about today. The West Virginia Mountaineers killing the game, and we're glad you're here to see it. Going to be brought to you by our friends today from Odoo. And right now, guys, you know Odoo's got that thing going on. Make sure you're checking them out at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. And thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your very first listen of the day, and for being a part of Locked On Podcast Network and the #1 sports podcast network in the country right now, where we do love talking about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. On today's show, we're going to bring in somebody to talk about what I love, the Mountaineers, right? And somebody I want to try to convince to love them as much as I do. He is co-host of the Solid Verbal, one of the best college football shows out there, does an excellent job. We're talking about Ty Hildenbrandt.
How's it going, Paul?
Doing good, man. Hey, listen, you are a legend. Obviously, love what you guys got going on over there. Didn't realize it had been since 2008, but that's crazy. It's crazy just in every sense, from the consistency, the success that you guys have had over there. It's a big deal, man, and the consistency is obviously shown.
Yeah, I mean, look, we when we started it was podcasting, as the word podcast did not exist. It was just two dorks on the internet talking about college football, and we kind of stuck with it. It's grown little by little over the course of time, into the point now where it's kind of a full-time thing for both of us. And we're just excited to talk college football. This is the time of year, right, when everybody starts feeling the vapors, and excited to be on here with you today and talk some Mountaineers.
Yes, I've seen you guys on my friend John Kurtz, and it sounds like to me that you don't hate West Virginia this year from a standpoint of where they're going to be, but you also maybe don't love them this year either. You think they're going to take a step forward from what I can tell. Can you kind of give me your thoughts behind that? Because it seems like a couple people are coming around. I seen Josh Pate last night. He said they might have 9,000-yard rushers, which was funny. Phil Steele has come around to West Virginia, likes him this year. Stanford Steve picked West Virginia to play in the Big 12 title game. So there are people out there that are picking the Mountaineers to do things like that. I'm just curious as to what your thoughts on what your reasons are for where you have them.
I've got them at 5-7.
Right.
But I do think it's a step forward. And so I understand why those two thoughts may seem incompatible. But last year was a transition year. I think you could argue that this year also has a similar shape of a transition year because there are just a lot of new players in year two. I think it's building towards year 3 in 2027. But this isn't to say that I don't like West Virginia this year. I think there are plenty of reasons to be interested in West Virginia in 2026. I know Rich Rod has talked all offseason about why the offense a year ago didn't quite take flight, right? They weren't getting enough first downs. They weren't running well enough to stay on schedule, those types of things. This year, I know they're trying to fix that with an exciting running back transfer in Cam Cook. I know they're deeper along the offensive line. They've got I think a better tight end room. They've got a quarterback who can stay active in the running game as well. So there's a lot that I am interested in. And in particular, I think that Cam Cook acquisition is going to be a pretty big deal. Like, he should give them more pop on the ground. I think what they've got at the line, along the line, is pretty good. And if it is Michael Hawkins Jr., a quarterback from Oklahoma, that's sort of like, I think that's an upgrade as well. So, I think on offense, there's at least a vision there. I've talked about this with a couple other teams that we've previewed here. It's one thing if it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It's another thing if you can kind of squint and see the vision and understand what they're trying to build. And I think Rich Rod has pretty much a proven track record for doing just that. So I'm I'm optimistic about what he's doing on offense. Is it 11 new starters on defense, Paul? Like that's
No, it's not quite 11. I think
Okay.
that's, obviously if Ben Cutter is not a starter, then it'll be 11 new starters. So
yeah. So
Nate Gabriel has started on the defensive line. Corey McIntyre has played a lot of games on the defensive line. Let me see. Cam Torber was a redshirt. He was a freshman last year. He's coming back as a redshirt, but he only played a few games.
So it's like that's the thing on the defense, right? And it depends where you look, right? Some people will cite 11 new starters. Others will say, well, there were some guys that were like kind of rotational or role players.
Right.
So it's never exactly an exact type of science, but either way, there's a bunch new on defense. That doesn't necessarily mean they're worse. It also doesn't necessarily mean they're better. I look at the secondary. I say I think the secondary could be a bit of an issue, but regardless, I just think there are plenty of reasons to be interested in West Virginia, and I remain optimistic that we will see some sort of step forward. I'm not sure I'm going to go as far as Stanford Steve and put him in the Big 12 title game, but I also don't think it's a catastrophe. I feel like it's building towards something next year, not necessarily this year. That's why I've got him at 5-7. I also don't think it's hard to squint and see a bowl this season for West Virginia. So I have a lot of faith in Rich Rod. I'm just not fully there in terms of them kind of taking this like gigantic leap and getting, to 8-4, let's say.
I'll give you the reasons I feel better about West Virginia, and obviously you're where you're at with them. I totally understand that. I think it's a fair opinion. Obviously, I cover them every day. So there is, and obviously it's hard not to wear gold and blue colored glasses for any team you cover or whatever color they have. But for West Virginia, there's a few things I think that, at least in my opinion, I picked West Virginia to win 9 games this year. I didn't pick them to go to the Big 12 title game either, like Stanford Steve.
Right.
And that includes the bowl game. I think, at the end of the day, it's the deepest offensive line we've had in a decade, which is saying a lot. Now, we haven't been very good the last 6 or 7 years because of Neil Brown. The wrong hire can really hurt a program, and we saw that with Neil Brown. Great guy, as we all know. Unfortunately, didn't work out at West Virginia culturally. But Rick Trickett has talked about as many as 11 guys they believe that can help him win, and very talented. Obviously, Kevin Brown, as you know, probably if you're from that area, was the number 1 offensive line in the Pennsylvania area.
Yep.
He will start as a true freshman, and whether that's a good or a bad thing, I can't tell you. But I know that he is beating out some players that have played college football at a high level and have several years advantage on him to change their bodies. He's just that good. He broke every squat record, every major lifting record in the offseason. Obviously, that doesn't always translate to the field. But we feel good about him. We feel like we have 2 other guys on the offensive line that are going to play NFL players. So, I think it's going to be not just an improved offensive line, but a vastly improved offensive line. That's the number 1 buzz coming out of camp is that, when Phil Steele talked to Rich Rodriguez, he placed West Virginia as the number 3 offensive line in the Big 12 this year because it's that improved. And even, there are a couple guys, the synergy's there because Rick Trickett brought 2 guys from Jack State with him.
Right.
There are returning starters from last year alongside with Cam Cook. Obviously, Rick Trickett's going to make any offensive line better. There's no way you can get around that. So I think that's where a lot of the faith comes from offensively for West Virginia this year. And obviously the scheme works. Now, a receiver, clearly West Virginia, there's a lot of new with that too. Jaden Bray will be back. Hopefully he can stay healthy for another year, but there's a lot of talent on the receiver room. Prince Strom is really good at Boise State. He got hurt at USC, thankfully for West Virginia, but not thankfully for him, obviously. And then, there's a couple other guys that are really talented in that room that we like, but certainly to your point, once again, lots of new. So I don't know. I stand behind. I think that, last year's team probably would have been a bowl team if your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth string quarterback didn't go out. Your first, second, third, fourth, and fifth string running backs also didn't go out. That actually happened. That's a rarity, I think. And to have 5 players go out at those 2 spots, Rich Rod said it was an alien type year. So I think, that on a team that he says would have beat that team badly last year, the offense is going to be the main thing I think is the most improved. Defensively, just really quick, is there are some players that I think that people overlook, like Jameer Latimer, who had 88 tackles and 4 interceptions on this defense at Jacksonville State. That went to Wisconsin. He's now back on this defense. Zach Alley said it's the most talented nickel room he's ever had. That includes at Oklahoma. Talent doesn't always equal wins. I understand that too. So there are a ton of things to be excited about, but once again, like, I understand there's the new players that you kind of have to get past to get to a spot. So the schedule is probably one of the other things that we'll talk about. We have to do it right after the break here, but after the break, I would like to get into the schedule with you, Ty, and see where you're at there, and we'll talk about it right after the break here with Ty. We'll be right back. Our friends at Odoo saying hello here, guys. And I think for me at Odoo, if you didn't know, right now running a business should not feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems together that were designed to work together. Never. And one app for accounting, you got one other for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo is going to come in for you. All-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. You got sales and accounting, you got inventory and marketing, everyone working in one place, right? So Odoo is going to be the platform for you to manage, grow, and scale your business. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working towards the same goal, and then that's going to be true in sports as it is in business. And one thing that's going to stand out for me is that organizations are always going to be the best when everybody's pulling in the same direction. That means it's not just going to be one great player or coach. It's going to be a coordinated effort across the entire organization. It's going to make that thing successful. And great organizations are going to win because operations matter, and that's where Odoo comes in. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. And back here in segment 2 with Ty Hildenbrandt. Is Hildenbrandt or Hildebrandt?
Hilden. Yep.
That's right. I said it right.
There's an EN in there. Yep.
I said it right the first time. I wanted to make sure. From the Solid Verbal, man, thank you so much for letting me rant there for a minute about West Virginia. There's a lot to talk about. Like I said, last point on the roster, and then we'll move on. Josh Pate made a great point, and it really kind of made me rethink some things. West Virginia, if you look at them on paper, you will say, well, there's 70 new players again. It's the same thing as last year. Except when you look at, it's a top 20 portal class, it's a top 20 recruiting class. The level of talent is vastly superior. Last year, Rich Rod and company got hired in December. In the second portal window, they had to build a team out of the second portal window. And they did it by bringing in 40 seniors because there was just nobody else left. I think that Rich Rod does better when he has less. I've never seen him when he has more. I mean, you can say Michigan, he had more, but they never bought into him at Michigan or gave him a chance. The book from John Bacon, 3 and Out, tells that story pretty well. So after some of those things I just said, did you learn anything about West Virginia there that you didn't know already, or was that pretty much what you knew?
No, I mean, I think it tracks with what I've been reading all off season. And I stand by. I think West Virginia is going to be far more interesting this year than they were at this moment in 2025. I'm still not going to go Big 12 title. I'm not going to go quite to 8-4, and I still feel like next season is the one that I've really earmarked for West Virginia and Rich Rod making a big move upward. That being said, the Big 12 is wide open, and so it's not a stretch to say that West Virginia takes a pretty big leap, even if we're not seeing it on paper at time of recording in late August. I'm looking at the schedule right now. I've got it in front of me. There are a bunch of teams on this schedule where you can basically look at your hands and look at yourself in the mirror and shrug. Like, what do we really expect out of Arizona this year, right? Arizona had a really good defense a year ago. Is it going to be as good? Probably not. What do we expect out of Oklahoma State? Oklahoma State's another big shrug. They'll be great on offense. Will they play defense? I don't know. What about Houston? Houston's like a popular pick. I don't know.
West Virginia put up 400 yards rushing on them last year.
So it's like, I though I am not necessarily throwing my hat in the West Virginia ring, and though I'm going to remain interested in West Virginia all season long, I think it's a great college football story. Can anybody sit here and definitively say they know what's going to happen in the Big 12? Even
No.
Texas Tech, who appears to be the front runner and probably has the best roster in the conference, Texas Tech is not without its own share of questions. There's a lot new there too. So I get it. And I think if you're a West Virginia fan, maybe the best thing that you got going for you is the fact that you're in a conference that feels wide open, that maybe has a clear quote unquote front runner, but even the front runner has questions. It's not a Miami situation like it is in the ACC where it feels a little bit more bulletproof.
Yeah.
I feel like Texas Tech has real questions that they need to answer for this season. And we might not find the answers to those until later in the year when maybe they play some better teams in either a conference championship game or the college football playoff if they make it that far. But, I look at the schedule and I say, well, even though I'm at 5-7, there are a lot of teams in here that are probably pretty gettable.
The schedule's interesting. You have 7 home games. Obviously, West Virginia's history has been a lead at home. Under Neil Brown, that wasn't the case once again. But, obviously Coastal and UT Martin should be wins. Coastal in year 1 under Ryan Beard, who was a really good coach.
Yeah.
But I don't think you'll have them ready in year 1, hopefully. Virginia's interesting. They return the most snaps of any team in the country. Off an 11-win team that's probably a little fraudulent, but they were still good. Don't get me wrong on that.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be interesting. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. I guess it'll be Bo
Prabula.
Prabula, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be Prabula. It's going to be Iowa East. That's the easiest way to think of Virginia. They're going to run the ball. They're probably going to use Bo and his legs, and they're going to play really sound defense. But if you think of them just through the singular lens of Iowa East, it's not exactly apples to apples, but it's not too far off.
You want to see my best thumbnail I've ever made?
Sure.
Eli Holstein after the backyard brawl. He said, they punched me.
Yeah.
I keep that thing around. It's just, obviously I was rooting for him to win that job. He's just somebody I loved to hate at the time. Obviously, I wish him well, honestly. But, obviously Prabula, it's funny how things turn around. There's in West Virginia, although it wasn't under Rich Rodriguez, obviously Prabula was a part of that James Franklin team that came in here when we thought Neil Brown maybe turned it around after a 9-win year and scored at the very end of the game when they were already up 3 scores, So like West Virginia fans have already found a reason to hate Bo Prabula coming into that game. But I do think that's a winnable game, a neutral site for West Virginia. I don't see Virginia as a team that's in the Texas Tech category necessarily, but I do think they're a team that's probably on paper better than West Virginia. But I still think it's winnable. Oklahoma State, to your point, yeah. I had the chance to cover them for a month this year because my friend Cody unfortunately got sick at Locked On Oklahoma State, and they did not put anything on defense. You're correct. They've got 3,000-yard receivers, and they've got a quarterback. But that's it, right? And they've got a great running back who may be one of the most overlooked players in the conference. Nobody talks about Hawkins for whatever reason, but so I think there's winnable games on this schedule. Iowa State, you don't even go on the road to week 5 if you count Virginia being neutral site.
Right.
So there are things to like about the schedule. You get a lot of teams that you maybe would lose to at home, and then the last 4 down the stretch. I think personally, we talked about Houston. I think Utah's fraudulent. I don't know how you replace all 5 starters on your offensive line. John Henry Daly, Smith Stoughton, your head coach, your offensive coordinator, and all the 6 guys he took with him that were assistants. Do you have a good sense for Utah being what they have been under Morgan Scalley?
Yeah, I mean, the line thing I think is concerning. And I know one of the points that we raised when we previewed Utah was, to what end will they be able to retain that identity that they had under Kyle Whittingham, which was really physical at the point of attack, really sound offensive linemen. Brought the line coach with him, right, to Michigan. So, Morgan Scalley, obviously they wanted to turn the page and pass the baton over to him. But, to what end they're able to kind of retain that identity that made Utah so tough to beat over these years remains to be seen. What will they get out of Devin Dampier this year, who is back, who for the most part had a pretty good campaign with Utah a year ago, albeit I think a somewhat limited one in terms of what they got out of him offensively. Are they able to kind of find another gear of that offense will be I think the most important question for me. So I'm not going to go so far as to say they're fraudulent. And for sure, it's a tough way for West Virginia to end the season on the road in Rice-Eccles.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
But, listen, it's going to be a different Utah team. I think
we're going to know what they are by then. That's for sure.
We'll know what they are. And some of the questions we have about so much being new, particularly about the offensive line, though, that stuff will be sorted out by the time we get to the end of November. But even still, it's, I think, fair to ask what version of Utah are we going to see? Is it going to be sort of a continuation of what we saw all these years now under Kyle Whittingham, or is it going to be like a Diet Cola version of the Utah that we've come to know over all these years? I don't really know the answer to that.
One quick more break. I know you got a heart out in a couple of minutes, and then we'll let you go. We'll be right back. I'm going to try to get you to adjust your win record position by 1 win. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Got to talk about it. Our friends over at FanDuel are here, and look, man, I've told you guys about FanDuel for a while now. They've got a lot going on, right? And if you're a baseball fan, you know that hitting the home run is probably the number one thing in baseball that chicks dig, hitting the long ball. FanDuel is going to give you a free chance to win your shot with Daily Dingers today. It's easy to play. All you have to do is make your free pick for who you think is going to win and hit that home run in their game. If you're right, you receive a profit boost, and you can use that on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. Best of all, you can make that free pick every day throughout the Major League Baseball season. And look, Daily Dingers is going to be another fun way to stay engaged on every day's games. Whether you're following your favorite team, keeping an eye on matchup across the league, or you can even hopefully make sure, because everyone's going to have that game where they think somebody is capable of going deep. Now you get a chance to make your prediction before the first pitch even begins. Sometimes there's going to be a hitter on a hot streak. Other times there's going to be a favorable pitching matchup, or even a ballpark like Great American Ballpark that tends to give up home runs. These are the ways that we think when we look at baseball on Daily Dingers, and those are the first things I'm going to look at before I make my Daily Dingers pick. Are you ready to play your game today? Join all the action at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com to play Daily Dingers and make your free pick on who's hitting a home run today. Play ball, swing for the fences on FanDuel today, an official sportsbook partner of Major League Baseball. And it's segment 3. Come along with me. It's the Milkman, the Paperboy Evening TV. Back with our familiar friend. It's Ty Hildenbrandt coming around the bend here to talk about a couple of little things here before we move out here, because I think, West Virginia obviously in a pretty good spot, hopefully heading into week 1 and 2. Beyond that, we will not know for at least a month, right? So my questions are, do you think West Virginia gets through that first month of the season 2-2, 3-1? And if you're picking West Virginia to be 5-7, I'm assuming you've got them losing 2 games there in that first month, because if they can get through that first month 3-1, surely I can get you to adjust your record to potentially 6-6.
Yeah, I've got it at 2-2.
Okay.
I think Virginia wins the neutral site game in Charlotte. I'm really high on Oklahoma State this year, probably to an unhealthy degree. I think that game's a shootout because I'm not sure what the defense looks like on either side of it. But if I am going through and sort of counting up wins and losses, I would definitely say Coastal and UT Martin.
Okay.
I would definitely say Iowa State on the road. And then I've got other losses for sure on the road at Utah, on the road at Texas Tech in the final month of the season. I also think TCU will be pretty good. I don't think it's impossibly difficult to find 3 more wins on the schedule to go 1 over my 5-7 and get them to a bowl, which is why I say there's a lot of interest. So is that going to be against the likes of an Arizona, a Cincinnati, a Kansas, maybe even a Houston, as you mentioned earlier? I think it's absolutely possible that I'm underselling what West Virginia could be this year. So it's not a hard sell for me to say that they're going to get to 6, maybe even 7 wins. I think that's entirely possible. But if I'm putting my money on a number right now, just looking at the schedule here, I'll stick with 5-7, maybe with some room to grow.
I appreciate it. I'm going to take that as a win for me and say that you picked 6-6.
All right.
And I'm going to go ahead and tell people on social media that you did. Kidding. No, but thank you so much for being here, man. I know you had an out here at 5:30, so we'll go ahead and let you bounce. And really want to appreciate you. Will you please let everybody know where they can find you and what you guys do?
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm excited to see what West Virginia has in store this coming season. Just look for the Solid Verbal anywhere you get your podcasts, anywhere out on YouTube. Go to solidverbal.com. That's
Not
our
hard to
website.
find.
Yeah, not hard to find. Just Google college football podcasts and you'll find our show. As we said at the top, we've been doing our thing now since 2008. We were sort of like the OG college football podcast, and all are welcome. So stop on by and say hello.
Where did that name come from, really quick? I meant to ask that.
Well, the Solid Verbal, back in the day before they upended all of this recruiting with the transfer portal and NIL and whatnot, a Solid Verbal used to be a player committing verbally to a school. And over the course of time, I think the value of a Solid Verbal has been greatly diminished. Certainly in present day, it's not exactly what it used to be. But originally, yeah, it was a recruiting term that we kind of used as the title for our show.
Thank you so much for being here, man. Guys, thank you for being here too. We're going to go ahead and let you run out of here. But don't forget to make your second listen of the day, Locked On College Football. Smith and McLaughlin does an excellent job over there covering Locked On Ducks as well as Locked On College Football. Hopefully we'll see you over there and here, as we love talking about the Mountaineers every single day. And we can't let you go without forgetting one last important part of this, and that's never, ever to forget the Q-Less Country Roads.